Welcome to Strategic Astrology for the month ahead. In this case, we're going to be looking at June of 2026. If you are new here, hello, my name is Moses. I'm an astrologer and strategist. So I started doing astrology for businesses before I switched over to doing personal sessions. So I focus mainly on timing, decision making, and personal development. And the way I practice astrology is by studying it in real time as well as historical cases. So, do we use astrology textbooks? Yes, but it is also about diving into the history that we can track and see what these planets are doing in real time through politics, through pop culture, as well as our own individual lives through client work as well. Astrology is at least 3,000 years old. So my job as an astrologer is to help track the pattern, look the cycles, and help you understand when is the right time to move, when's the right time to hold, have a hard conversation, or when to let things breathe. This class is specifically going to be the collective forecast. So what that means is that your individual birth chart is going to be the most important thing to anything we do in astrology. I can give you this collective forecast, but it won't make a difference if your own chart is impacted in a different way. So, when you want to work with an astrologer is when you are making crucial timing decisions. And the reason why to work with an astrologer instead of just getting these collective forecasts is because we can tailor it down to your chart in your life. Previous times where you wanted to start a business and it was a great idea, we'll look at those patterns. If you want to look at times where you made a big oopsie, we can look at those patterns and know what is going on in your chart specifically. The patterns show up across a collective, but you in your chart operate as an individual. And lastly, this class is hosted in partnership with Awkwardly Zen, which is a free online spiritual community. So in this class, we're going to circle back on May. We're going to look at key dates in June. We're going to look at one of the best moments of the astrological year, which is happening between June 8th and June 9th. Going to look through major moments and the lunar cycle of June. We're going to have a deeper dive today on Chiron entering Taurus. That is a big deal. It's going to be a 7-year cycle that we land on. And also, we are going to be adding context here and there on the basis of your rising sign. So before we begin, what are you here for? This class is geared towards using astrology in a strategic way. So take a few minutes. There are a few questions I want you to think about, write down if you want to, or just consider them. First question is going to be, what is one long-term goal that you can name for yourself or for your business? That doesn't mean you have to have it figured out. It could be a feeling of how you want to feel. It could be a specific metric that you're trying to move, whether that's a career transition or otherwise, but just try to write something out there. Number 2 is, what did May bring for you? How are you walking out of May feeling? What problems came up? What solutions were you able to find? And how did May work out for you? And then number 3 is, what are a few things that you are looking to accomplish in June? These don't have to be major, and you don't have to share these in chat either, you guys. Just try to write them down for yourself and hold on to it. Because as we move through June's forecasts, I want you to have these things in mind. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. All right. So here's something really good to know about astrology. There is a reason why we have an intuition, and ignoring your intuition is the worst possible thing that you can do, point blank, period, regardless of any type of spiritual practice that you utilize anywhere. So, astrology will not tell you, what am I supposed to do when I grow up? Who am I supposed to become? What job should I have? What business should I start? Astrology really can't answer any of those goals for you. What it can do is help you understand the qualities that make you you, and it can understand the timing and cycles of your life that you're developing into. So no matter what your goals are in this class, it's so important that you are taking control of the person that you want to be. So if you have your goal set up, I can give you all of the astrology tools and we'll knock it out of the park. However, if you don't have a clear goal or idea established yet, there are some precursors before being able to make the most out of an astrological practice. That's the time where we really dive into your birth chart. That's the time where we get to know you. That's the time we go to therapy. It's a time where we get clear on our passions and the things that we love to do. Because the goal is you might not sit here at the end of this class saying, I know every single date that I'm going to take advantage of, but you can have some good energetic markers and checkpoints that say, okay, I want this to happen. Let me wait and see what it feels like on this day. And just giving those ideas time to simmer is a really great and helpful way to check in and see the progress and what's developing in your life. It's not always about rushing in. So month ahead, June of 2026, here is your dates to circle, everyone. And we're going to go through these events. Don't feel like you have to write it all down now, but June 1st, June 8th, June 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 21st, 28th, and 29th. Those are our biggest energetic markers of the month for us. And if you are brand new to astrology, if you're someone who loves learning about astrology, but you haven't put it into practice in your daily life yet, following the sun is the easiest way to do it. If you know your rising sign, then you can determine what house the sun is in at any given point. The sun operates like a spotlight, so it brings attention to the part of your chart that it's in when it's in transit. And we can actually look at that. So if we look at my chart, we can open the current transits. And I see right here that the sun, this little circle icon, is sitting in house 8. House 8 is about debt. It is about shared resources, collaborations. It's about psychology, therapy. It is about power dynamics and control. And it's a more subconscious part of the chart. So whenever the sun is sitting in the 8th house for me, it gives me a reason to pay attention to the themes of this house. Now, as this month progresses, let's go forward a few weeks. By the time we get to the end of June, we're in Cancer season, and the sun will have moved into my 9th house, which then brings up a different pattern that I can start bringing awareness to and tracking for myself. So with that said, here are the breakdowns of the different houses that the sun is going to be in. So June 1st through 20th, if you are in Aries rising, the sun is in your 3rd house of communication, learning, and environment, local environment specifically. Then come Cancer season, the sun is going to be in the 4th house of home. So you can find your rising sign in the left column there, and then see what the sun is spotlighting in your life. And this is one of the most basic ways that you can apply strategic astrology for you. So we're going to start June 1st just with the landscape of the sky as it stands right now. All right, so June 1st, we are standing in Gemini season. Uranus is in Gemini for the first time since the 1940s. We have Mars sitting in Taurus, which is a good sign for us to lay low and stay calm. Mars in Taurus does not like to move quick. So if you are trying to hustle culture right now, maybe don't. Mars in Taurus is a farmer's instinct, and Taurus as a season is heavily associated with the ethics and values of farming and agriculture. So you can't hustle culture a crop to grow. You have to provide and nurture the conditions for it to grow. So don't push past your brink right now. We have Saturn in Aries currently, which is telling us, again, Aries is like hitting the gas. Saturn in Aries is like hitting the gas and the brakes at the same time. So it is I want to go faster, but I probably shouldn't. Let me dot my I's and cross my T's. We've got June opening with Venus and Jupiter, which are slowly moving into a conjunction together. Jupiter is a patient teacher in Cancer. It is the matriarch operating in her prime, bringing peace and nourishment to an entire village, if you will. Plus Venus sitting there in the 2nd decan of Cancer as well, sitting pretty in a part of the chart that deals with friendship and community. Mercury also will move into Cancer on June 1st, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But we're getting ready for an end of the month Mercury retrograde. That shadow period starts mid-month, and I'll have those dates for you there in a second. So between those factors, patience is really rewarded right now, you guys. That's the best thing that I could say. You might have deadlines coming up. And also, because there are deadlines coming up and because there is faster movement, think of June as one of the better moments for rest than July will be. July is where things start getting fast, furious, busy, and crazy. A lot of different levels, lots of stuff moving into the fire signs, and some bigger outer planet configurations starting to shape up there. So we want to take as much as we can as June to sit back and relax and enjoy the downtime while we have it. Okay, so Mercury enters Cancer. That's happening on June 1st. So Venus and Jupiter are already there. Mercury is going to join in, giving us a stellium in Cancer. And Mercury in Cancer is going to think through the gut. Oftentimes, when you have Mercury in a water sign, feelings and thoughts are the same thing. Some folks rationalize their thoughts before they put it out there. Mercury in the water signs, often the feeling is what comes out first. That can be a gift because it could be very intuitively led. And whenever emotions are dealt with and held sacred in our bodies, and we're taking care of our hearts, we're taking care of our guts, taking care of our flesh bags, Mercury in Cancer can do some awesome things. What it's not always good at is being loud and outspoken. We're going to get really familiar with this energy because it's going to go into retrograde. So we want to prepare for, what does it feel like when I walk into a room and I feel a little less confident now that I'm seeing the reactions and faces of other people? That's something that can come up with Mercury in Cancer. It is, who are my besties? Who are the people who let me express myself freely? How do I love on them more? How do I spend more time with them? It's also the crab shell. So Mercury in Cancer can cause us to retreat back into that shell a little bit. That could mean we feel more comfortable at home. It could mean that we take a little bit more time to ourselves, and all of that is a-okay. So Mercury is moving on its way to a retrograde. June 12th is where we start the Mercury retrograde shadow period. Now, if you're familiar with what a shadow period is, can you just shoot me a yes or a no in the messages? Okay, we do have some no's in there. A retrograde in general is going to be when a planet appears to be moving backwards. What it really is an optical illusion, because it's like when you're sitting in a car and you look to the car next to you and it looks like it's going backwards. That happens because of proximity and closeness. The easiest way to say it is that a retrograde period shadow is the degree that a planet is going to move past. It'll go retrograde and then hit that same degree again. So there's an area where the planet fully covers and then recovers. That's our shadow period. So the idea with a shadow is the second we get the shadow period of a retrograde, we're going to experience some of the same things a second time around. All right, so long story short, we've got June 12th through August 6th in workshop mode. Mercury retrograde is not a dirty word, you guys. It's not a bad thing. It is not a cancel all of your plans type of thing. There are ways that you can take advantage of Mercury retrograde. For example, the day of a Mercury Cazimi, where Mercury and the Sun join together. It's a really great day to sign contracts within a Mercury retrograde period. But general Mercury retrograde advice is that you might get a lot of great ideas, but they might not land exactly how you want to. Mercury retrograde can be unsupportive in short-term ideas. In long-term thoughts, it can be amazing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a great example of someone who was born during a Mercury retrograde. So time, tenure, and experience gives them this wealth of knowledge as well as a critical thinking about how they approach the topics they're working on. Law firms, for example, can thrive on Mercury retrogrades because there's the idea of reviewing over contracts during Mercury retrogrades, however, not suited for all occasions. So what I like to say is throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. It's a great experimentation time. If you go into it understanding that let's see what happens and I'm not sold on anything yet, we can have a lot of fun with it. You can learn a lot from mistakes as well. And oftentimes we undervalue mistakes as part of the thing that does progress us and grow us. But when we can avoid it, why not? So Mercury is going to go retrograde. That happens a little bit later in the month. But really, the main player for this month is going to be June 8th, June 9th, the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Now, the actual conjunction takes place on June 9th. Guys, the reason why I am really focused on June 8th is because if you are planning on launching something, if you're planning on setting an energetic intention, if you want to plant a seed, June 8th and June 9th are your best days to do it. So what exactly does Venus and Jupiter do together? Jupiter and Venus together is beautiful, harmonious, expansive, and very patient. So it is going to be a great time for launches if you are looking to launch something. If you don't have something to launch, that's okay. You don't have to make something work. It can be a day for you to set an energetic intention. Jupiter and Venus together is restful and easy and lovey-dovey. I got married on a Venus-Jupiter conjunction, for example, because I'm going to use the best astrology of the year. And with June 8th, the reason why we like this date rather than June 9th is because the moon is in a better position. So the moon rules the sign of Cancer, and we've got the moon sitting in Pisces on June 8th. So on that day specifically, the moon has a clear line of sight to what Venus and Jupiter are doing. And when the moon has a clear line of sight, she can do better things for that combination. So that is going to be my day. The exact timing that I'm using for my personal launches is 3:45 Mountain Time, Denver, Colorado time on June 8th for launch. That sets the chart up as a Libra rising with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction on top of the midheaven, which is amazing for long-term reputation. However, that is really going to be dependent on your longitude and latitude. So what can we use it for? Sending an important email, pitch, or proposal. Signing contracts is another great utilizer of it. Setting intentions for something long-term or starting anything that you want to grow. I signed a contract with a tech company on this last Venus-Jupiter conjunction last year. Believe it was around August or September. And that contract that I now have signed was supposed to go through by November, December. We are actually now getting to the point of launching this Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So I will say it's not a quick win. Sometimes you do have to have patience, and there are other chart factors that matter, but really cool moment there where you can plan these major moments around this. It happens once a year, usually. So there's always a way to take advantage of it in some way. Okay, we talked about the 8th versus the 9th, so that's great. On to June 13th, Venus enters Leo. So Venus moves into Leo from the sign of Cancer. And Cancer Venus is nourishment, it's care, it's close connections and community. What feels like home, what feels safe to me. It enjoys a great night in, it enjoys a rom-com. Now in Leo, Venus is really about visibility. And your strategy for Venus and Leo is peacocking. Let yourself be visible. Let yourself be flamboyant. Let yourself be seen. And don't give a damn what other people think about it. So we want to own our creative and artistic impulses. Venus and Leo is also a great energy for anything in childcare services. So if you are doing something with children, Venus and Leo is a great timestamp for that, or any sort of creative, hobby, self-expressive moments. Leo is a campfire in the fact that it draws people to it with its warmth. So Venus in Leo's job is to be authentic AF. There are some downsides to Leo placements at times. Every sign has shadows and repercussions to it. And for Venus and Leo, visibility can be polarizing. When Venus is in Leo, criticism rises. I don't love spirituality or ideas that sort of ask you to be paranoid about other people or what they're thinking or what they're doing. But the one exception I make to that is Leo placements sure do seem to get a lot of evil eye, which just means that there is a visibility to the sign of Leo, whether they like it or not. One of the archetypes of Leo is competition within the decans. If you're familiar with the tarot, that first decan of Leo is the Five of Wands. So there is some friction that comes with these placements. There is visibility and difficulty and criticism that comes with it. So part of that is the job of Leo to refine what was an authentic skill and turn it into something more polished. When we receive criticism, we take that as data. And it leads us into this interesting conversation about Leo and the artist, which is essentially this idea that when you put something out into the world, you are the artist of that creation. And that means other people are going to have opinions about the art. They're going to have opinions about what you're doing, how you're doing it. And you can take that a lot of different ways. One, do I care about their opinion? Two, are they qualified to have the opinion that they're carrying? And three, is the criticism constructive or not? All of that is data for you to then take and say, do I need to refine this? Do I need to make it better? What aren't people understanding? And what can I get out of this negative comment? Working in corporate, as long as I had, there's one thing that I've learned. It is that every customer feedback survey matters, whether we like the feedback or not. The experience and the feedback is valuable data, and whether or not we agree with it doesn't make a difference as to that person's experience of it. So it can be really helpful with Venus and Leo to understand the things that you're really proud of, and then to see how people react to those things. And sometimes I'll think it's the best art piece in the world, the best project in the world, and some people are going to really hate it. Are they my audience or not? That's a question for you to decide. And then stop trying to be universally lovable. I love saying that. With Leo placements, I like to think, I don't know if Cardi B has any Leo placements, but when it comes to this entire conversation, Cardi B is my go-to person because love her or hate her, everyone has an opinion about Cardi B. And that, my friends, is the energy of success. It's a lot more polarizing than you think it would be. However, when you are successful and you are owning your power as a strong Venus and Leo does, it is going to be polarizing to some extent. So being universally lovable is a myth. If you're not Dolly Parton, I'm sorry, it's not going to work for you. Okay, so entering into June 14th, the next date in our cycle. So June 13th, Venus enters Leo. Then when we get to June 14th, we've got a new moon in Gemini, which is going to fuse curiosity and intuition together. It's happening at 24 degrees of Gemini. So if you know the degrees of your planets, we can look for any planet that has near a 24-degree mark. So anything from 20 to 28 degrees. If you have planets that come into contact around those degrees, this new moon could be extra significant for you. And it's going to be ruled by Mercury. Now, Mercury isn't retrograde at this point, but it is going to be in its shadow at this point. So Mercury's in Cancer. Mercury in Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So we have those two planets in a back and forth conversation with each other, which creates something called mutual reception. If you are familiar with mutual reception, drop me a yes or no real quick, and that'll let me know if I need to explain it more. Okay, let's look at it. All right, so very close to the new moon there. So new moon is just a conjunction between the sun and the moon, you guys. So when the moon and sun line up together in conjunction, that is a new moon together. What mutual reception is it says, okay, this new moon is happening in Gemini. Gemini as a sign is ruled by the planet Mercury. So where do I find Mercury? I'm finding Mercury here in the sign of Cancer. What planet rules the sign of Cancer? The moon. So this new moon is ruling over Mercury, and Mercury is ruling over the new moon. So it's a ping pong match between Mercury and the moon, which normally would not be in conversation together, but they are in conversation here. So think of this as a blending between themes of Gemini and themes of Cancer. And you can start taking some of your keywords. If you're newer to astrology, there is nothing better to support you than developing a ton of keywords. I want you to think of 10 to 20 keywords for each planet, of each sign, of every concept in astrology, because essentially once you get into the nitty gritty of it, you're just keyword blending 24/7. That's all astrology really is. That's probably dumbing it down too much, but that's what it is in my head. So we get this really lovely conversation with mutual reception where these two planets are in some type of conversation. Gemini is about data, it's about numbers, it's about curiosity. It's an air sign, so it's logically led and socially led. It's not necessarily about how we feel about things. It's just there to report on the things. Gemini is the news reporter of the zodiac. It's also the private investigator of the zodiac, because we can have all of our hunches and all of our intuition that we want, but if we can't prove it, we don't have jack shit. Meanwhile, Cancer is the response to Gemini, where after I've gathered all of my data and I know all of the things that I need to know about a potential, Cancer says, how do I feel about it? And what does my intuition say about this data and this impulse? So we've caught this fusion between curiosity and intuition that's happening. This blend of even just logic and intuition coming into the new moon as well. This is a new moon that can have themes of protection, abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, trusting your guts versus trusting the data. And our job is to work out those differences and understand that it might be a little bit of both. I don't necessarily think that this is the best new moon for planning a new intention or launching something new. However, I think it is a great new moon for contemplating, reflection, and getting clear on what needs to change before you move forward with whatever you're going through around this time. So this June 14th moment is a great chance to take a pause, take a reflect, and then be prepared to workshop issues out through August while we go through that Mercury retrograde period. So intention to set, you don't have to be smart enough. You don't have to be prepared enough. You don't have to have all of the answers. I think if you have had a business or if you have worked as a leader in any capacity, all of us know that you do not have to have everything figured out to do it. In fact, overthinking and freaking out about all of the potential solutions is often the thing that stops us from getting the thing done. So this new moon can be a little bit of a trap in that way. And it's an intention setting thing. It's not like an event causer, but it is a really good chance for us to just say, okay, what do I feel? What do I know? Where's the gap? And am I okay making a leap of faith to get where I want to go? Or do I need to wait a little bit to see how things spin out for me? We've said this already, but sometimes the mistakes are the realizations we wouldn't have had otherwise. I think all of us can share in those similar stories where maybe we didn't see ourselves being where we are at here today, but we all know the points, moments, and consequences that got us here. And this entire month is really a good reminder of those things, that sometimes it's more about divine intervention, synchronicity, and serendipity that sort of leads us to the path that we need to go. And we go into June 19th, Chiron enters Taurus, and this one is worth conversation. And guys, this is where we're going to slip into a little bit of mundane astrology. What mundane astrology is, it's the study of patterns over human history in a geopolitical context. So we are looking at historical patterns in American history is where I've specifically studied, but you can look at these planetary patterns over time throughout the world to see what happens on a collective level whenever these larger cycles come into fruition. So let's check it out. Chiron's been in Aries since 2018, and Chiron is going to enter Taurus for the first time in about 50 years. Whenever you have these outer planets or these slower moving bodies, usually what's going to happen is they are going to make an initial entrance. In this case, the initial entrance happens on June 19th. It's going to station retrograde, so starting to move backwards August 3rd. September 17th, Chiron goes back into Aries. Then in January, Chiron stations direct. And then we have a full long haul 7-year pattern through July 2033 of Chiron in Taurus by the second quarter of 2027. So the time between now to September 17th is our preview of what Chiron in Taurus is going to be about and what it's going to do. So the thesis there is that Chiron in Taurus often causes these fights. And again, I've studied this on a United States level here, guys, and that's where I'm coming from with it. I know we got some international folks in the room, but the United States is often fought about value during Chiron in Taurus. So Taurus itself is often established as ruling over banks, money, food, the land, agriculture. It's our stockpile and our resources. Chiron is a tinkerer, so it likes to mess and fiddle and change things. Many of you have probably heard of Chiron from a wounded healer perspective. In a mundane aspect, Chiron in Taurus is all about how we restructure and reshape and fix some of the systems that might not be working the ways that we want them to. Collectively, there are serious structures that sort of get overturned and changed with Chiron in Taurus. So 1879, long story short, 1879 was post-Civil War. Paper money had flooded the country. Nobody trusted what the dollar was worth. So January 1st, 1879, we forced everyone back to a gold standard. That happened during Chiron in Taurus on an active Chiron aspect. So paper dollars could be traded in for gold. That was really good for banks. It was really good for lenders. The people who were in debt lost. Their money lost a lot of value because it was then compared to a gold standard. So they had been counting on cheap money to pay back their loans, and the rug got pulled. So what got built next is the Standard Oil in 1882, which was the first giant monopoly. Edison turned the lights on in Manhattan. We also had things like the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was a very specific targeted pullback of immigration reform for Chinese folks who are immigrating over here. And already you can look and see of what's going on in our country right now and see the parallels of things that are shaping up along that way. Doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way, but very interesting. Then 1933 was the next time we had Chiron in Taurus, which, that's the Great Depression. So you had 1 in 4 Americans out of work, and every bank in the country closed for a week in March of 1933. To resolve this, FDR made it illegal for Americans to own gold. So the government bought it all back, and then they changed the price of it. Dollar lost its value. People in debt won this time around. Banks and lenders are the ones who took the hit. That eventually led to Social Security, the FDIC, and other newer modern banking practices that sort of came into effect around that time. Then 1979 was the last time we had Chiron in Taurus. So 1970s were overall a mess. We had prices going up, jobs disappearing. We had Paul Volcker take over the Fed in 1979. He raised interest rates to 20%, which led to the worst recession since the Depression in the 1930s. So farms went under, factory towns collapsed, and prices eventually did stop rising because of that, though. So each of these moments, what we saw was that the people in charge clean up money one way or another. The standard of finances and money changes a bit. So I'm very curious what crypto is going to bring this time around. I'm very curious what's going to happen with the BRICS Pact and Alliance or other forms of currency coming on the rise. We also had these giant companies show up and put themselves as in charge. For example, the Rockefeller Oil Standard was this giant private corporation who now says, here's how we're going to do everything when it comes to oil. Similarly, in the 1930s, right after this period of Great Depression, the money didn't disappear, it moved somewhere, right? And all of a sudden, after that, you have the rise of the Empire State Building and the rise of skyscrapers in New York City, which are these giant elite displays of wealth, which is a big FU to the people who just went through the worst economic recession in American history. So there's this gap of wealth that sort of gets created oftentimes with Chiron and Taurus. That's quite interesting. And oftentimes what I do see, and this is, don't sue me for this, you guys, it's not what I want to report on, but it's the cycle that I have seen. Conservative policies and conservative movements typically thrive when Chiron is in Taurus. So protesters lost every single time when Chiron is in Taurus. They didn't lose completely, but what often happened is the corporations got what they want out of those moments, and then they had to respond to the protests and the feedback by implementing these practices or policies that quote unquote took care of the consumer's concern or worry. So there were concessions that had to be made due to protests, but the corporations still ended up with a lot of power. Now, 1879, that worked really well. 1933, it worked too. 1979 didn't work as well. This time, I'm not so sure that it's going to play out the same way. And here's specifically why. Pluto squares. So Taurus and Aquarius are both fixed signs. Pluto is sitting in Aquarius. Chiron's going to be sitting in Taurus. So Pluto in Aquarius, the last time we had that was 1773, the American and French revolutions. And Pluto in Aquarius often brings this theme of power back into the people, revolution and innovation in general. So Pluto is going to be squaring Chiron, which means it's creating friction. So this Chiron and Taurus moment, which normally allows conservative policies to flourish, is getting one hell of a pushback. Pluto is the death and rebirth phoenix moment with whatever it's touching. So we're going to have 5 separate Pluto squares between July 2028 and April of 2030. That's crazy. That is setting us up for some larger scale tension between the type of policies that are trying to be passed and how the people feel about it. And we can see this already bubbling up in the collective. One thing specifically is the use of AI is probably one of the most heated and protestable things that the current zeitgeist is fighting against, as well as things like environmental rights and making sure that we are still being a human first culture. All of those things feel really connected to this debate and this back and forth. We'll get to some more clarity on that once we start seeing what Chiron and Taurus really does bring. Trust in government, though, is already sliding. News banks in school is all sliding. So when Pluto fights Chiron, people in charge are going to try to fix things the old way, but Pluto will pull people away from trusting them. So the new rules may not stick. And we can take advantage of that. I don't know if you guys know this about me. If you're new here, hi, I'm a dirty opportunist. My job is, if we know what's going to happen with the astrology, then let's take advantage of it. So how do we do that? It's Robin Hood energy. And Robin Hood energy means that we have to become the hero of the people. So there's a lot of different ways to think about this. This is not just Robin Hood in a social justice warrior kind of way. It is also understanding the type of businesses that flourished whenever you had Chiron and Taurus. So for example, MAC Cosmetics was built during Chiron and Taurus because we weren't able to spend a lot of money on luxury. Small luxury became really popular. So accessibility and pricing is one really big way that you can take advantage of Chiron being in Taurus with this. We want to know our audience and vouch for them. So for example, who are the people you're going to fight for? That doesn't mean you have to fight for them any kind of way. Fighting for them can mean understanding their budget. Fighting for them can mean not trying to force them, a consumer, into a practice or a product that they're not ready for or didn't ask for. It's about understanding your audience intimately enough to be able to get feedback from them before you move forward with something. The more that we can look pro people and for the people, the better it is going to be for you, my friend. On a personal level, Chiron and Taurus, you want to look at those planets that are going to be affected. So, for example, if you have the sun in Taurus, if you are a Taurus, eventually at some point over that 7 years, Chiron crosses over the sun. That would be like an identity wound revealing and fixing itself, or a new shape or identity trying to be taken on. Chiron is going to experiment and tinker and try to get to the bottom of what isn't working and create a new solution for it. But what this really means for businesses, leaders, and entrepreneurs, it's real stuff over flashy stuff. It is understanding the things that people who are limited or low on money need in order to excel and thrive. One really great idea that a business I'm working with right now had was implementing daycare into their gym. That was a really accessible and pro person move that allows quality of life for moms who are trying to go to the gym. Great win for them. We know that this rewards long-term policy. Usually after Chiron enters Taurus, the things that change really stick. So if we're starting to see policies change and develop, know that these policies are probably going to be around for a bit, whether we like them or not. So understanding how to work with them and how to move with them can be extra helpful. Taurus rules over worth. So you want to expect a low slung shift in what people are willing to pay for. So accessibility pricing, having different price ranges. If you are a spiritual person, for example, I'm a spiritual business owner. My sessions are going to cost what they cost, but I'm also going to have an option of here's a cheap subscription for one part of my work that you can afford and is accessible. Here's a medium level. Here's a different level. So you can break it down like that to give everyone a chance at the pie. So know whose side you're on. Brands and leaders who can't answer that won't make it through. Usually there are sides to be picked during these times. It doesn't mean we have to narrow ourselves down to black and white, but it does mean that our values and what we stand for, we got to put our money where our mouth is. So if we're going to say we're about a cause, we need to stand and commit with that cause, and actually showing that you are with that cause 100% of the way is the best thing that you can do, more than having 50 causes that you say you're for, but you don't take action on all but one of them. June 21st is Cancer season, and it is going to be the official start of summer. So June 21st, we've got the solstice taking place. That is very exciting. The sun comes into one of its stronger spots in the sky, and it'll start getting warmer and things will start getting better. And if you're a Cancer, happy birthday. So Cancer season is all about home, family, comfort, and what nourishes you. We have a very Cancer heavy sky right now. That's a beautiful thing. So it's a great time to kick back, relax, think about community first, think about family first. Community, connection, and family are such important and forgotten values right now. It is important to connect back to other people, and that's what Cancer season is all about. And so what does home actually feel like to me right now? How is my concept of home changing? Who are my people and how am I staying in touch with them? How do I make sure I don't end up feeling disconnected? And what's feeding me and what is draining me? With Cancer, they say about Cancer is usually the Cancer personality is developed externally, which means I'm going to put myself out there and see how people respond. And then based on how safe I feel, I'm going to know how much I need to be in my shell. So if I'm in a room full of bullies, then a Cancer is probably not going to be the one to speak up. However, if they are allowed to be themselves, Cancer is an amazing energy for self-expression in the confines of safety. June 28th, we have Mars entering Gemini. And this is where things start moving, you guys. This is a very fast mover. Once we get into the tail end of this month, we start getting that July energy and momentum really picking up. So Mars in Gemini, I lovingly call this the Swiss Army knife placement. It is everything. It is everywhere. It is all at once, but it's also moving Mars out of a spot where it's very uncomfortable. Mars does not like to be in Taurus because Taurus does not like to move quick. Gemini loves quick movement. So Mars in Gemini is going to be a lot more rapid fire. It is socially savvy. It's logically driven, adaptable, and curious. It's also ruled by Mercury the trickster. And that is a very interesting thing because sometimes it's just about getting the end goal that we want. So it's some of the energy you have to play with of, can I trust the intentions of the people in the room with me? Do I know that I am in a place where I'm being told the correct and accurate information? Am I being fed misinformation by any source, whether it's the news, that text message, the thing my kid told me, or on social media? Sometimes scatterbrain, Mars and Gemini, not the best for deep dives. It is great for responsive movement. Mars and Gemini is going to be able to handle just about anything you throw at it from a intellectual side. And it's excellent for skimming the surface and multitasking. So it's professional juggler energy. And it's going to be there the entire Mercury retrograde. So things may not be as they seem, and it can be very tempting for us to move before we're actually ready to move. And that's the energy that I would really watch out for once we start moving into July period, is to not just react. Try to give yourself time to think things through and to get more data before you move on it. Conversations can also get a little more frustrating. People might be a little more likely to have some outbursts here or there. And if that's happening, again, everything is data until they're just being dumb. So take conversations easy. If there are misunderstandings, there's bound to be. Sometimes there could be an open mouth, insert foot moment. And oftentimes that energy of Gemini, it's just not that deep, quote unquote, which means sometimes it's just the thing that they were thinking and not something they meant very personally or were trying to start something deeper from. Then June 29th, we've got the heaviest day of the month. So 3 major events all happening in one day. That Mercury retrograde, which we've talked about, I think enough at this point. So I'm going to keep on going from that. Just know that's the official start of the date in Mercury retrograde on June 29th. We've got a full moon on that day as well. So the full moon takes place in Capricorn on that day. It's ruled by Saturn, which is in Aries, so it creates a square to the full moon. So there is a harder edge to this full moon in Capricorn. This could be a day where you come into contact with limitations, and it could be a day that really spells out and makes clear what things are hurting us in the process of whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. So it's, again, that feeling of gas and brakes at the same time, really amplified here. If you're hitting walls around this full moon in Capricorn, take them seriously. Don't just try to find a shortcut around the wall. You need to figure it out and really hammer your shit out so that you feel good about whatever it is you're getting into. Delays are sometimes the best mercy we are given. Full moon does ask us, what have you decided and what are you ready to commit to? And if there's one thing that Capricorn does represent, it is commitment. So you need to be sure you feel good about your vision and hammering through it. Capricorn understands archetypally that there is not always an easy path, and sometimes you have to be the one who goes first, the one who climbs the mountain so that an elevator can be installed. Capricorn is not afraid of doing the hard work here. There is a real big squeeze there before July of gaining clarity while we start this Mercury retrograde period. So if you're running into barriers, you're going to have Mercury retrograde and really through August to workshop those things as you continue to move forward. Things that help us for this day and for this full moon: clear deadlines, a clear lane, and a clear target. Then the last thing that happens on the 29th is Jupiter enters Leo. Jupiter in Leo, the last time we had that happening was around 2014, 2015 or so, I want to say. That was around the time where we had Kanye and Trump running for president. Celebrity gets amplified. The phrase breaking the internet was created during Jupiter in Leo. So there's a really big rise in individualism, personal identity, and also these new boxes get created. So if you are someone who does social media, or if you are someone who wants to be in social media, the key right now is to follow a format that makes sense for you. Don't follow someone else's. Build your own box. Create your own system for it and set the trend yourself. So it really rewards fully realized individuals who know what they want and what they're going for. Love it or hate it doesn't necessarily matter if you can create a convincing enough argument for it. And if you are charismatic enough, Jupiter in Leo will typically reward that in some form or fashion. So Jupiter in Leo is going to be pretty good for self-expression, creative risk, and taking up space. Also for leadership visibility and public-facing roles. Generosity, drama, and romantic gestures. Jupiter in Leo can be spicy as hell, you guys, and we love that. Speculation, gambling, and big swings. I'm not going to tell you guys to go gamble. However, if you are someone who works in things like stock market or etc., could be good to look at Jupiter in Leo through that context. So if you've been waiting to be seen, if it's your time to shine, my dear, Jupiter in Leo can be really great for you. It's going to be really great for the fixed signs, especially. So if you have Leo placements, Taurus placements, Aquarius placements, or Scorpio placements, or even Aries or Sagittarius placements, Jupiter in Leo is definitely worth paying attention to. So understanding your face is the value. If I, as an individual practitioner, have the choice to go by a brand name or just by Moses, I'm going to be Moses. We love your name in the title. We love your face in the display for Jupiter and Leo. We want all of those things because we want to be seen and people want to know who is saying the words. So that visibility piece, super important for it. Your opinions are going to hold value. We talked about Jupiter and Leo and that energy of competition. May the best man win. And usually those people who come out on top can stay on top if they take advantage of Jupiter and Leo. And again, stop trying to be universally loved. Sometimes it is Leo's job to be polarizing, and that's okay. Late July is really where we want to watch for. Late July in general is where we get into crazy chaos land. So if you guys remember from last call, we talked about the cradle we're shaping into for July, which is between Pluto, Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus. Those four are creating a configuration in the sky, which leads to accelerated movement, quickness. And the last time we had that aspect, you guys, is a crazy one. I did the research. It's not an exact match because I couldn't find an exact match in human history for this transit that we're building up to in late July. Last time we had something similar was the fall of Western Rome, which led into the Middle Ages. So very fascinating energy we're getting into with July. Again, Rome didn't fall in a day, so we're not panicking over this. We are not trying to fear bait with this, but instead we're trying to use this to get ahead of it. From every single battle, from every issue, there is always a winner, and who's to say that can't be us? So we want to watch for celebrity ego versus public need. So are we out of touch with what the public wants? Are we out of touch with how things should be? Are we coming from a place of privilege where maybe we don't understand the needs of someone who is less fortunate in this exact moment? And we also want to watch for how the public responds when things get loud. What's being favored by folks right now? Anytime there's an outrage, there's an audience. So again, we're talking about this very Machiavellian in the sense of taking advantage of it for us. But you can be the one who has the voice and has the opinion, who expresses the thing that hasn't been said that can resonate with a lot of other people. Leadership is a huge quality of Jupiter in Leo. So understanding the courage that it takes to present yourself authentically into the public and to find people who resonate with you, really great thing for this period. We talked about this already through Chiron and Taurus, but Robin Hood virtues, standing up for the collective, Pluto and Aquarius is power to the people. Really interesting. Zohran Mamdani, mayor of New York City, he is a Leo rising. Similarly, so is Trump. So there is a lot of magnetism and polarity that can be found with that Leo rising archetype. But the ways that it works is when they represent or stand up for a group of people who feel like they need support or leadership through a period. You don't have to subscribe to ideals that aren't yours. So you don't have to become Moses, the social justice warrior for every cause. Stick to the things that really resonate with you. Stick to the things that are true to your heart. Stick to the values that you hold near and dear to you. And I guarantee you, if you are familiar with them, if they come from a personal place and come from a knowledgeable place, you will find people who can support with that. So by end of June, we want to move out of this period of speculation and guessing, and we want to have a final commitment of directions locked in some kind of way. So what direction are you trying to take? By July 1st, you need to at least have that target there. That target can and will move. It's not to say finality, but it is to say that you need to understand what is noise and what's not noise by the end of June. So July 1st, we have a clear path and a clear lane we're trying to tackle. All right, guys, that is all we have for class today. So thank you guys for coming. I really genuinely appreciate y'all being here and showing the support. If you would like to work with me or if you would like to schedule a session, I dropped my information into the messaging So feel free to get that set up there. I do one-on-one sessions, personal client work over the long run, and business astrology services as well. And I also have a digital product coming out June 8th. I'm going to run my beta test for the Astro Calendar, which is 30 days of customized horoscopes for your chart delivered to your Google Calendar ahead of time. So you can have your astrology ahead of time, know what's coming up, have the right days to choose that meeting, to meet the person, to schedule the interview, all at your fingertips and custom to you. Excited to show it to you guys. So feel free to drop out from here and let's check out these questions.